Tonight, the Bears get an assist from the NFL commish in their search for a new stadium. Caught on cam here in Arlington Heights just hours before the game Saturday. President Trump says the U.S. is ready, willing, and able to assist the Iranian uprising as the repressive ruling regime's days could be numbered. And Chicago civil rights icon Reverend Jesse Jackson will get an update on his health and plans for upcoming Martin Luther King Day celebrations.
Welcome to the Chicago Report. I'm Paris Schutz, recovering after Saturday's stunning comeback victory over the hated Green Bay Packers. They didn't have a voice all day yesterday. The Bears are not slowing down in their efforts to close the deal on a new stadium site. More on that in a moment. But first, some of the other headlines from tonight. Organized bombardment. That's how Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul is characterizing Operation Midway Blitz and the Department of Homeland Security in its chaotic and high-profile raids here. The state has filed a new federal lawsuit to block these deportation efforts and some of the attacks on residents, alleging a climate of fear and that, quote, uniformed military-trained personnel carrying semi-automatic firearms and military-grade weaponry have rampaged for months through Chicago and surrounding areas, lawlessly stopping, interrogating, and arresting residents and attacking them with chemical weapons, end quote. Now, meanwhile, the state of Minnesota is also filing suit against the Trump administration in the wake of the killing of local resident Renee Good and heightened protests there.
We ask that the courts will end the surge of thousands of DHS agents into Minnesota. We ask the courts to end the DHS unlawful behavior in our state, the intimidation, the threats, the violence. We ask the courts to end the tactics on our places of worship, our schools, our courts, our marketplaces.
And Illinois child care providers who are worried about a dry up in federal funding, they can breathe easier for now. That's because another federal judge has issued a restraining order on the administration attempt to withhold billions in funding to a handful of Democratic-run states, Illinois included. The administration paused the funding amid ongoing investigations into alleged fraud in Minnesota's social service programs. Illinois was set to lose $1 billion total for child care, and Governor Pritzker says there are no investigations here or current evidence of widespread fraud. As you know, the city of Chicago is bear crazy right now, and the team brass is wasting no time trying to convert this momentum on the field into momentum on a new stadium deal. On Saturday, the NFL's top dog visited here and toured potential stadium sites both in Arlington Heights and Indiana just hours before the game, and some of it was caught on camera.
Look closely. This is a picture of Bears chairman George McCaskey, President Kevin Warren, and NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell just hours before the game Saturday, standing on the Arlington Heights Stadium site. The meeting was caught by Greg Berger, who was dropping his son off at the metro station, ironically, to go to the Bears game at Soldier Field.
I'm like, whoa, that's George McCaskey. That's crazy. Then I spot Kevin Warren, and he's got the orange tie, and I'm like, that's Kevin Warren. He's always sporting the orange tie. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, my jaw totally dropped when I saw Roger Goodell. That's when I was like, what is even happening right now? This is bizarre.
Sources close to the stadium negotiations tell me Goodell also toured sites in Northwest Indiana. Lawmakers there are working on a potential tax deal to lure the team across the state line. 3 weeks ago, the Times of Northwest Indiana caught representatives of the Bears conducting site testing on the plot of land in Hammond. Sports stadium consultant Mark Gannis says he expects Indiana to roll out the red carpet.
I think what we're going to see coming from Indiana is going to be so significant in terms of public money going into the stadium.
And sources close to the Bears say they're looking to Indiana Republican Governor Mike Braun, who gives his State of the State address on Wednesday, to see if he mentions anything about a potential stadium. Braun has been publicly supportive of efforts to this point. The Bears have been stalled on Illinois legislation that they're seeking. It would give them the ability to negotiate future property tax rates with Arlington Heights, something they say they need before they can attract investors to build the stadium. They're also looking for state money to help with infrastructure, but vow to build the entire structure on their own.
This deal that's being offered in Arlington Heights is really very one-sided for the benefit of the taxpayers, and very one-sided as compared to, say, the Chiefs in Kansas, the Cleveland Browns in suburban Cleveland.
And wasting no time, the team sent out surveys to season ticket holders asking them about how they feel about going to Northwest Indiana to tailgate and go to a game, as well as seating charts for a new stadium and potential pricing. The highest price for a personal seat license, $100,000 for club seats along the 50-yard line. The PSL prices range from about $4,000 for nosebleeds to $100,000 there. Wow, that's gonna hurt the folks that maybe aren't raking in billions of dollars a year. Now, meanwhile, let's hear a little more from Arlington Heights fan Gregory Berger. This is such a great story. His serendipitous encounter with some NFL heavy hitters.
I dropped the two of them off, and then all of a sudden I saw like three black, SUVs on the Bears property. And I was like, what's going on there? Like that on a Saturday, something seemed a little off. And I saw some men standing around. So I'm like, I'm going to pull into a parking space real quick. And I'm looking through the fence. And all of a sudden, I see that iconic mustache of George McCaskey, the chairperson of the Bears. I'm like, whoa, that's George McCaskey. That's crazy. Then I spot Kevin Warren, and he's got the orange tie. And I'm like, that's Kevin Warren. He's always sporting the orange tie. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, my jaw totally dropped when I saw Roger Goodell. That's when I was like, what is even happening right now? This is bizarre. So after that, then I just went right to my camera and I just started snapping tons and tons of shots. Couldn't believe what I saw. So then as I drove away, I didn't peel away, but as I drove away, I rolled down the window. I just yelled out, "Go Bears," because, we're going to be playing the Packers in a few hours. And I headed home, and then I shared everything on Blue Sky afterward. And the next thing you know, it caught a lot of traction. A lot of people took notice that this is newsworthy and interesting and pretty crazy, especially, when the Bears would be playing one of their biggest games in a decade, at least in a few hours. And this was happening, in Arlington Heights. It was pretty crazy.
Great citizen journalism there from Gregory Berger. Sometimes it's just about being in the right place at the right time and then reaching for your phone and snapping some pictures. And we're very appreciative that he shared those pictures with us. Now, other news tonight, protests have rocked the country of Iran as the ruling regime now faces a potential overthrow. Meanwhile, President Trump says he is ready to get the U.S. involved militarily or at the negotiating table.
The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some very strong options.
And joining me now is Matteo Farzaneh, Iranian native and chair of the History and Political Science departments at Northeastern Illinois University, also the author of Iranian Women and Gender in the Iran-Iraq War. Thanks for being here, Matteo. Good to see you again. First of all, you do have friends, relatives, I believe, in Iran. What is the situation on the ground right now?
Well, as probably the viewers know, this is the fourth day that Iran has had a complete blackout of internet service. Nobody can call out, nobody can call in. The telephone lines are down. Only today we were able to contact a relative, or they contacted us, vis-a-vis some ways that they couldn't share online. And we spoke for about 2 minutes just to find out if everybody was okay. And it's a very, very stressful situation for a lot of people, for millions of Iranians that live outside the country, and the 90 million people that have to deal with the situation right now.
These blackouts, is this the regime intentionally suppressing communication?
Yes, this has been done before once, but I think this is the longest thus far. Sometimes you would be able to get some data out, but this time around, it's been incredibly difficult to get any information that can be vetted or can be actually seen live or otherwise.
We've seen protests bubble up over the years, tragically, when a young woman was shot in Tahrir Square. How did these develop, and how widespread are they?
Well, the Iranian people are out protesting by millions, apparently, if not by hundreds of thousands of people. The main situation right now has arisen from 47 years of constant mismanagement by the rulers of the Islamic Republic, some within their control, some without their control, meaning that they're being manipulated from outside forces such as regional players and the United States.
Who would that be,
mainly.
like Qatar?
That would be Israel.
Israel.
Israel, yeah.
Israel.
Israel and the United States working together. So it's a combination of anger, frustration, high inflation, lack of employment, and lack of hope, in essence. But the funny thing is, Despite the fact of all this characterization of the Iranian society, the Iranians are still coming out very bravely, trying to put an end to this.
At great
and
threat,
that gives,
personal threat to their safety.
Oh, absolutely.
And so how serious a threat is it that the regime might actually be overthrown?
It's very difficult to guess that at this moment. For all intents and purposes, if there is going to be an overthrowing, it's not going to be within Iran itself. There are no indications that there are factionalization of the political system. That's what usually happens if something happens inside the country.
Someone in the military has made a deal.
Right,
Or
there
there's
is no possibility of that, not that we know anyway. The possibility would be if the United States would help this sort of like very highly disorganized group of people that want to make change, but that would only create chaos, and that's not what a lot of people are hoping for.
And you have President Trump commenting both on social media, now they're on Air Force One, as you just saw, saying, hey, the U.S. is ready to support the uprising and perhaps even militarily. What circumstances would you guess that the president might follow through on that?
I think Donald Trump wants to make some sort of an effort to show that he can make things work. But he's got his own way of very unconventional ways of doing that. My guess is that, according to what he was saying yesterday, or this morning rather, that the Iranian leadership has contacted him. There is a possibility that there is an opening with Iranians coming to the table. But what the United States need to realize is that these negotiations, if there are going to be any, are being done with a regime that's been incredibly harsh on its own people, has mismanaged billions of dollars worth of oil revenue over the years. But at the same time, too, we really don't have a better alternative at this time.
And the president is basically saying that the negotiations will be around a new nuclear deal. Obviously, they ripped up the last nuclear deal. Then there were the bombings of the nuclear sites, as everyone suspects that the regime was working on potentially enriching uranium, creating another nuclear weapon. So would that just be the contours of a deal, just working on a nucler
That plus what you're saying, Paris, that plus the idea of Iran getting rid of all of its missile defense system, which is a non-starter in essence. Because Iran has learned from North African nations such as Libya and other nations within the region, within the Middle East, that if you don't have a super duper sort of a defense system, as outdated as it might be, it did hold the Israelis out during the 12-day war when they were fighting it in June. So that's a non-starter. So I don't know if Iran would abide by that, but at the same time, things are not going well as the Islamic Republic leadership would like.
The way I see it, just as an observer who's never been there, is that the citizens are very unhappy overall with the regime. They've been repressed. But that doesn't mean that they want the United States, or, I mean, obviously they don't want Israel to come in. I mean, it's not as if because they don't like the regime, all of a sudden they want help from Israel and the United States, correct?
Absolutely. I just got a photo from a flyer that was stapled to a board inside Tehran, and if I may make the translation, it basically says, no to the Islamic rule, no to warmongering Israel, no to American pirates. We, the people of Iran, don't want war.
What would be the alternative in terms of government? You see the former Shah, is it his son, Pahlavi,
right,
who has been exiled, who's been very critical. Is he potentially a leader in waiting?
Well, if he wants to be king or the Shah, he needs kingmakers. At this time, he doesn't have any kingmakers around him. He's got notably 3 advisors. One that's going to a community college right now to start getting a degree, and the other 2 are total unknowns. They're quite bullying. If you disagree with them right now, they tend to bully the people that don't agree with them. So whether or not Donald Trump can make a deal with somebody like that, I think your guess is as good as mine. But at the same time, within the regime itself, we really don't have better alternatives.
You know, I mean, the history here is so fascinating because you go back to the 1950s and the British and U.S. overthrow of the democratically elected leader of Iran, Mossadegh, right, which was for oil. I mean, it was for the same reason the president is saying he wants to go into Venezuela. The British wanted the oil. They didn't like that the Iranians nationalized the oil. So then Mossadegh is overthrown, the Shah is installed, he's overthrown, taken over by the Ayatollah now since, what, 1979? Right. So put this into context, this moment, where does this fit into that 70-plus year history?
Well, Americans themselves are in a very interesting situation with the choice of president that we have right now. This is an unconventional president with an unconventional way of thinking. Things are extremely personal for him. What I would advise, if I were on the Iranian side, is to allow Donald Trump to make a visit, to come up with a plan as to how we are going to make amends since 1953, because that's when the seeds of distrust were sown. And at the same time, this might be a little funny to a lot of people, I would allow the Trump organization to build as many hotels as he wants.
Interesting. So they're appealing to the things that tend to get his attention.
Yes, absolutely.
Build the Trump Tower
yes.
in Tehran.
And in multiple cities, yes, why not?
So interesting. That's very interesting. All right, Matteo Farzaneh, professor at Northeastern Illinois and chair of the History and Political Science Department, and also author of Iranian Women and Gender in the Iran-Iraq War. Thanks.
Good to see you. Thank you.
And when we come back, an update on the health of Reverend Jesse Jackson with his daughter, radio host Santita Jackson. And Chicago civil rights icon Reverend Jesse Jackson Jr. has been in ailing health, but still hanging on. He's back home, as we understand, and this as the organization he founded, Operation Rainbow Push Coalition, is preparing for Martin Luther King Day next Monday. And joining us now is his daughter, popular radio commentator and singer, I should mention, Santita Jackson. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so very much. It's wonderful to be here.
So first of all, we have to get an update on your father's health. We know that he was discharged from intensive care. Is he home? How is he doing?
Well, he was discharged from the hospital.
From the
He
hospital.
was in intensive care only for a few days. But thank goodness he's home now and he's doing quite well. And we're very, very, very happy to have him home. We had another Thanksgiving, we had another Christmas, and our parents just celebrated their 63rd wedding anniversary.
Wow,
So
congratulations.
it's been a great
And
season.
so is he still engaged in the news and everything that's going? I mean, he's always been engaged and always been very interested in not just locally here in Chicago, nationally, internationally.
Well, you have to keep the news on all day, all night. It drives my mother crazy. But the fact is he is very engaged, and he'll correct you if he feels that you have the story wrong. I produce his nationally syndicated radio show. I've been writing it now for 21, almost 22 years. And I go to him every week and I give him a slate of stories. And I'm able to communicate with him. It's harder for him to get words out, but he gets words out. But I give him narratives and he squeezes my hand and he'll say, go with that, go with this. Well, he doesn't have dementia. He has the most aggressive form of Parkinson's.
Right.
And it's advanced. But fortunately, he's still here and his mind is very sharp, and so we take full advantage of that.
So it's more like a body thing with Parkinson's, a degeneration of the body, but the mind is still fully active.
In his case, absolutely.
Yeah, right. It's different in every case.
Well, particularly in this particular form of it, PSP really locks down the body. I look forward to them doing much more research because it is something that it's a challenge, but the blessing is that our family's together, and that is what has been helping us to get through it. And the prayers of so many people. Every time I'm out, someone wants to know how he's doing, and they tell me that he's praying for him. People from all walks of life.
Would we anticipate to perhaps see him publicly again? Obviously, we've gotten accustomed to interviewing him and press conferences on all these pertinent issues.
I don't think you'll be seeing him doing press conferences, but you might be surprised to see him make an appearance every now and again.
And speaking of that, Rainbow Push, Martin Luther King Day is a huge holiday. It's next Monday.
Yes.
First of all, the holiday in Black History Month is February, as I understand. What has this meant to the community? What does this holiday signify?
Well, I think, first of all, let's go back to SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which is the organization that he helped to found, the organization out of which my father and mother evolved into Operation Push and then into the Rainbow. The motto was to save the soul of America. And he did mention red, yellow, black, brown, or white. It's to save the soul. It's a spiritual crisis that these ministers recognized, 70, 80 years ago. And they have sought to make America not just a more perfect union, to unify America and make it the beloved community where there would be no poverty, where there would be no war, where we would have everybody on an equal footing. And so this holiday is a day in which we want to acknowledge that, to acknowledge Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's work. We're going to have 3 days that Rainbow Push will be engaged. Coming out of Dr. King's workshop, that's the name of our international headquarters at 50th and Drexel. And on Saturday, we will have a day of service and learning. Many people do not know enough about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's work and the work that has continued, that Reverend Jackson has continued for more than 60 years. And then we will be at the New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church for an interfaith service at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning at 78th and Cottage Grove. And then, of course, our breakfast at the Fairmont Hotel in Down Lemon will be the host. So it's going to be a very, very exciting 3 days. But at the center of it will be service. At the center of it is moving toward really helping to remind people that the ultimate goal is to have the beloved community, a community in which we love one another, in which we study war no more, in which we eliminate poverty. We have far too much of it. I mean, 11% of Americans are impoverished. 1 in 4 Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and even people making $200,000 a year are living, 35% of them are living paycheck to paycheck. Americans increasingly are insecure. And we want to, and we're looking to get 100 million bags of groceries to Americans.
Wow. So, and this is, but part of the 3 days you're mentioning, is this open to the general public, members of Rainbow Push, of Bronzeville?
It's for everyone. It's for everyone.
So you want everyone to come down and take part in this?
It's the Rainbow Push International Headquarters at 930 50th Street. Reverend Jackson's work has taken him all around the world. He has had a worldwide ministry, if you will, and it resonates everywhere because everyone wants to eliminate poverty. Everyone wants peace. Everyone wants equal access to health care, and everyone wants an education, be it vocational or academic. Everyone wants to live and breathe free.
Right.
And so, of course, you can come, Paris. We want everyone to come.
Well, I'd love to come cover it, or I'd love to have our station come cover it. Let me ask you this. You talk about saving the soul of the nation. This is the focus of Operation Rainbow Push. What is the approach the organization has taken, or Reverend Jackson has taken, amid the divide we see right now, and amid these very chaotic, I should say, immigration raids, or what we saw in Minnesota, the killing of a woman at the hands of a federal agent. What is Operation Rainbow Push's position on all this?
Of a wife and mother. I mean, Renee Good had a 15-year-old child, a 12-year-old child, and a 6-year-old who she had just dropped off at school. And then we have Keith Porter in Los Angeles, who was shot and killed by an off-duty ICE agent while he was shooting a gun in the sky, as people do on New Year's Eve as we're approaching the new year. What we want is for people, we don't want, we support law enforcement, but what we don't want is abusive law enforcement. What we're seeing with ICE is something very disturbing. We now are, what we're seeing, let's back this up, we're being called domestic terrorists.
Yeah.
If we dissent. Teddy Roosevelt, a Republican, told us that it is most patriotic to dissent. So to have the vice president call us domestic terrorists is very unsettling. To have the DHS secretary come out and prejudge or predetermine the outcome of the investigation before it even began was very unsettling. To have the president do that, I think that they're better than that. I think that Vice President Vance, I think that President Trump, I think that the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, I think that they are much better than that, and I want them to elevate their tone. That's what we want at Rainbow Push, because we need an investigation. People saw what they saw, and we want, if Jonathan Ross is someone who's been so damaged by this unfortunate incident that he had several months ago, then he needs to be
This is the
removed.
agent, and apparently there was an incident where he was struck and dragged.
Well, he was struck and dragged, and if he has been traumatized, and I'm sure that he has been, then he needs to be given leave. He needs to be given mental health care so that he can be healed, so that his family can be safe, and so that the rest of us can be safe. But to shoot a woman in the face and to shoot her 2 more times and to record it himself, I think that that is a bridge too far. And we have all been struck by that. And this is just miles from where we saw George Floyd choked to death.
Right.
And so we don't want to see that anymore. And what we want is a full investigation. We don't want the FBI to impede what the people of Minnesota will do. They need to come together. I mean, because we have Minnesota and Illinois who are now suing ICE. And that is just, for us, for Americans to be, for the state and the feds to be fighting each other, it almost feels like we're going into a civil war, and that is not what we want.
Certainly the opposite of what Rainbow Push is
We
pushing.
want people to come together, but you have to come together in justice.
Right. All right, Santita Jackson, we wish you a happy Dr. Martin Luther King Day, and we wish continuing good health for your father, Reverend Jesse Jackson. We hope he's watching. We hope he's healthy and engaged and vibrant, as he always has been. Thank you so much for being here. Good night, everybody.